Segu, you're watching Ganadigo One-on-One. I'm your host, Lauren Garnung-Hirdogois McCumber. In studio with me today is the now former Grand Chief of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake, Michael Delisle Jr. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, Mike. So, how does it sound being called former Grand Chief?
I prefer Mike Delisle. I've always been Mike Delisle, even as I was Grand Chief, or since my dad passed away, and I hope to be still called Mike Delisle. I think former just sounds like the late Mr. So-and-so or the late Mrs. So-and-so. I've always been who I am, and I'm still who I am. So just call me Mike Delisle.
Mm-hmm. So what was your expectations running this year for Grand Chief again? You've been at this for 11 years. How did you go into this election campaign?
Well, my expectation was to win. The very few people who asked me what I thought the outcome would be was that I would win. I think having a defeatist attitude or anything other than wanting to win, then maybe you shouldn't run. Understanding the challenge, not only from the past with Joe Norton, but the present with Lloyd Phillips, although I thought it was a mistake because we'd split the popular vote, ta-da, that's what happened, was a challenge. You know, Joe has a long legacy. Lloyd's been on council for a very long time. 1 year less than I, based on his 3-year hiatus that he chose to do in 2006 to 9. But difficult. But disappointment at the end of the day, alongside of relief. So it's a tough job.
When you say relief, can you elaborate a bit more?
At about 2 o'clock in the morning, I felt differently. It was like, you know, it's cliche, but you know, a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. It's been 17 years of my life, you know, 11 as the Grand Chief of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake on behalf of the community. Every day is a challenge. Every day is different. And starting Monday, yesterday, it's not the same anymore. Mm-hmm. So maybe relief is not the right word, but that's how I felt. And I told the people who were at my home that night that I have to feel some relief. You know, I'm ultimately disappointed. And don't get me wrong, I wanted the job. Mm-hmm. But the people have spoken, and with that comes a lot less stress, a lot less tension. Not more sleep at this point yet, but it'll come, I guess. But yeah, it's emotional for sure.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to Saturday night. How did you feel waiting for the results to come out?
Hot, being eaten by mosquitoes, and 3 hours from 10 o'clock when I got there is a very long time. Mm-hmm. I've heard all the stories about frustration internally and the process that didn't work and what have you, but I mean, at the end of the day, at almost 1 o'clock in the morning, disappointment, obviously. Like I said, if I wouldn't have wanted the job, I wouldn't have ran. People have asked me, you've been there 11 years, knowing all of the hot topics that are now facing the community, not just recently, but always. Why do you want to do this? And it's my community, and I still do. So to fail at that, or being successful at, you know, maintaining the position, ultimately is disappointing.
Yeah. So it must have been difficult taking such a hard stance on the membership non-residency issue. How did you handle that?
Well, for me, it wasn't difficult. It's been the will of the people long before the moratorium was actually put on paper. I was told that by my dad, and other members of my family have lived by that rule. I had 2 aunts who lived in New York. Well, one died in Florida, but their whole lives away from community because they married non-natives. So I understood it from long before I was a council member, when I was a teenager starting to look at girls. So it wasn't that difficult for me, because if the people demanded a different direction in the past 34 years, we would have known and heard it. I know there's separation in the community. I know there's division in the community. I realize and understand that there are different points of view, but at this point, the law is what it is. Mm-hmm.
Do you think with Joe Norton being in council now that any of that might change?
No.
No.
I mean, he's stated publicly he penned the moratorium on marrying out. So his position still stated clearly is that he believes non-natives cannot reside here. Unless the will of the people change, I don't see how he could one-handedly change that. And I don't think he will.
Okay. So after being on council for 11 years...
17, actually.
Sorry, 17, but as
Grand Chief.
Grand Chief. What do you feel were your greatest accomplishments?
I think negotiation at the seniority table, being able to chip away at that federal stone and getting them to have a greater appreciation of what land means for us, what the seniority historically was, getting them to agree that a land component, first time in Canada, will be a part of the seniority settlement moving forward, although not to fruition yet, but is a big accomplishment. The 700 acres, very controversial even to this day based on some external factors of this Highway 30 lands, I think are a great accomplishment. But it's not just me. I mean, we get direction from community. I get direction from the table. I think we've been very transparent to community and had a very good relationship at the table, not only in scenery but almost every file led to some of these things. So, yeah, as the leader spokesperson, you could say it's your accomplishment, but it's really not. You can't do it single-handedly.
Is there anything else that comes to mind?
Top of my head, not really. My focus has been seniority over the course of the last, I'll say, 6 years, even though we've been at the table for 9. There was a bit of a transition at the beginning because the Conservative government got in as a minority. The Liberal person that was appointed by the minister then stayed for a year, then transitioned out. A new chief federal negotiator was put in. So there was a 3-year transition, so to speak, but we've been hard at it for 6 years. It's been my focus. I think other relationships that have grown provincially have been successful. Jeff Kelly, again, being appointed Native Affairs Minister, has helped. The elections in the provincial government over the course of the last 2.5 years haven't helped in terms of continuity and trying to get the ball rolling, so to speak. So I'm not going to point to specifics. I just think that the community has moved forward in the past 11 years. We've got Quebec to change its labor laws, for example. There are a lot of things, but to me, it's a table. It's not an individual that can do anything.
So can you just tell us where the seniority has been left off?
Well, we're still debating legal issues, key legal issues. There's a meeting that will be upcoming if it's still going to be held, and I believe it needs to be in the middle of August. The date escapes me at this point, but in the middle of August, the chief federal negotiator actually just called me this morning. I've yet to return his call. I'm sure Canada will be in flux, not only because of what's happened here, depending on what this new table, this new Grand Chief and its table's direction will be on that specific file. Also going into federal election in this fall. They're saying mid-October. So after August, there won't be any movement on the seniority file until the new federal government is put in place. I don't expect there to be a meeting again in 2015 after August. So we'll see.
Okay, so do you have any regrets?
Zero, absolutely none. Since Sunday, it's been amazing, the amount of emails, texts, BlackBerry Messenger, personal visits to my home and or my office by colleagues, friends, foes, and everyone alike that said, Mike, we appreciate what you've done. You've carried yourself with dignity and integrity. We believe that every decision you made on behalf of community with your table was based on communal interest. It's been an amazing 48 hours. No regrets at all.
So, with that being said, do you have any advice to give to the new council table?
Work as a team. I know people are angry right now on council, in the community, based on the outcome. People have spoken, as I said earlier. You need to get over that. Understandable that it's emotional. There are people that have only worked with me, not only on council, but in administration too, that are feeling. Anger is one emotion. There are several others there, frustration and so on. Give it time. It's going to get better. You have to work as a team because this community is facing so many issues right now. You got to move forward.
And for you, what's moving forward exactly?
Well, again, being a cohesive team, ensuring that the hot topics like membership, like seniority and the major files, Quebec and Canada involvement, continue to move forward. Normally summer is a quiet time, not this time around. Like I said, I've had 17 summers. Only one has been quiet, and that was my first one. There's always work to do. People need direction. Our chief of staff needs direction. Administration needs direction. There are pension issues. The list goes on and on. So The chief and council have a full plate. It didn't end on Saturday night or early Sunday morning when the results were. You need to start working as quickly as you can. I know they met yesterday morning for an hour and a half, but the formality of government and or council needs to continue as soon as it can, because like I said, there's a huge challenge. I'm hoping Conservative government takes a hit and goes in another direction in the federal election. I don't think so, but they need to be up for the challenge. So briefing notes are being prepared. Lots of work ongoing this summer in the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel that the council, like the actual council table, didn't really change much? I think there's just one new incumbent, Arlene.
Yeah, and
what do you think that says?
It says that the community didn't want change. I mean, there were 9 other people that could have been elected to those positions as well. Arlene, as a former council member, having been voted out, being the only person new at the table again, to me screams the same sentiment, that they weren't looking for change. Time is, you know, I've seen all of the websites and blogs and commentary and so on. Obviously not. They had the opportunity, community had the opportunity, and I'll say it publicly, I'll say it today, I've said it before. If it weren't for a split vote, I think I would have won.
Mm-hmm. So do you have a bit of frustration with this, to not be there for the next 3 years to sort of help guide council on these 2 major issues that you mentioned, seniority as well as membership?
Oh, absolutely. This morning I met with the project leader, Winona Polson-Lahash, to not set the stage for the next steps, but bring a briefing note forward to the new Grand Chief to know where we're at, unless he comes to approach me, to know what the direction has been, and ultimately it'll be up to him and the table if they want to continue that. But definitely frustration. I mean, that was part of my platform. Business is not finished. I wanted to see the senior refile through, good, bad, or ugly. No guarantees, but my goal was to present a fair settlement package, including a land component to the community. I was hoping in this last term, and I would have still hoped into this next term.
Mm-hmm. So you said that you were hoping that the new Grand Chief would approach you. Are there any tensions between you two, or?
I won't say tension. I mean, politics is politics,
right,
and a campaign is a campaign. He took a few shots, I shot back. But I hold no personal animosity. I hope he can do the job. This community deserves the best. I have some concerns because I had, at times, difficulty keeping up to the pace, so to speak, and I'm only 50, so we'll see. But I wish him luck.
How do you see him as being a Grand Chief? I mean, you worked with him, under him, for 7 years?
6.
6 years?
Yeah.
How was that experience?
To be quite honest, it was a little frustrating too. Joe has a very different governing, managing style than I do. He's not very inclusive. That's how I felt anyway. I was actually appointed co-chair with Lloyd Phillips for his last term from 2002 to 2004 because his energies were focused elsewhere in Ottawa and through business. But I hope there's change. I hope he realizes that, you know, these are my people, this was my council, and he had worked with Arlene in the past, and I think at this point, Martin, he worked with for 1 term as well from 2000 to 02. So it's a young council, it's a new council in terms of experience. I have faith in many of them. I hope they can gel, because to me, that's the most important factor. If there's going to be continued tensions moving forward, not a lot's going to get done.
So that's kind of a fear of yours, that maybe he might not quite gel with this new council, and that will create even more roadblocks.
I hope it doesn't happen.
Okay. So we're going to take a quick break. You're watching Ganadigu One-on-One. I'm your host, Lauren Gernhirdogos-McCumber. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Ganadigu One-on-One. I'm your host, Lauren Gernhirdogos-McCumber. In studio with me today is the now former Grand Chief, Michael Delisle Jr. Earlier we were talking about Joe Norton and his style as a Grand Chief. I just want to know, what was your style? What's the legacy that you're leaving behind?
I would hope that people felt I was honest and transparent. I believe that my council got to know me that way and understood. I was very inclusionary in terms of any direction and or decisions that needed to be made. Sometimes some people will say it took too long, but I believe all the relevant information needs to be presented to council to enable us to make the best and or right decision. Senior for example, I'm the chief negotiator on behalf of Kahnawake and the table, but every decision, every direction that came out, even sometimes very minute, we had discussion with council. It wasn't just the working group, myself, Christine, Winona, Polson, Lahash. We had an external legal sitting with us at the table with Canada. We'd caucus, obviously, sometimes at the negotiation table and or have internal discussion too, but anytime we needed direction, always went back to council to say, how does this sound? Is this the way to go? And I hope people appreciated that. I believe they do. I was very inclusionary. And to community, actually just speaking to some people in communication today, thanking me, saying, I brought transparency to not only my role, but to the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake, ensuring as much information got out to community, as much, again, no other way to put it, as being as transparent as we can. So I appreciated those words as well. I don't want to call it legacy, but I hope that's what I left at the Mohawk Council.
Mm-hmm. So Lloyd is no longer part of the council table and Arlene is in. How does that change the dynamics?
Well, Arlene in the past focused a lot internally, whereas Lloyd in the past now, most recently, has always focused externally. Assembly of First Nations Quebec and Labrador, Assembly of First Nations nationally, QKR, meaning Quebec Kahnawake Relations, as the Intergovernmental Portfolio Chief, obviously external dialogue with the province, KCR, Kahnawake Canada Relations, as the Membership Portfolio Chief, working internally with Gasanawe Sky Deer as the Membership Portfolio internally, but again, externally with Canada at the discussions table, not negotiations. So very diverse background in terms of what their interests were. I'm not sure at this point what Arlene's were. I believe she had said either at Candidates Night or at the Youth Forum Candidates Night that she'd like to focus on external relations. So she's going to have the opportunity if council sees fit that she gains one of those portfolios, but very different in terms of what their priorities were, what their backgrounds were, and what their work experience was.
What's Arlene's style compared to Lloyd's?
Lloyd, I would say, is more passive, and Arlene can be very aggressive, which in most cases is good, especially when you're dealing with external government, so it may fit well. There's a difference in age, and I think I've always valued experience, so I hope she can bring that experience level up and to the task. So we'll see. But again, it's up to the table to decide who goes where and handles what.
If Arlene doesn't take on Lloyd's portfolios, who else do you think could fill that position?
Good question. Not a lot of people at the table at this point have that external engagement experience. They'll be guided through Chief of Staff Mike O'Brien to help with Joe Norton and the others to decide who it can be. I mean, there's capacity there, no doubt. I'm not slighting anybody. People can do it, but I'm just talking in terms of experience to do it. It's tough. I know Gus was partly involved on KCR because of membership. Clinton was on KCR, and I'm guessing will continue to be if he maintains the lands portfolio for the lands component of that discussion. So there is some, but to be the lead and to be intergovernmental portfolio chief, nobody else on council at this point has held that position. So it's a challenge.
Well, thanks for sharing all of that. I'm really excited to see what this new council table comes up with, what direction they move forward in. So now that it's the end of the road for you as Grand Chief, at least for this year, I mean, who knows what might happen in the future, what are your future plans?
I'm hoping to take the summer off, be with my grandchildren, my family, dedicate some of the time that I haven't had in the past 11 and or 17 years back to other priorities. My mom, who's 90 years old, who I visit every day, but very briefly for coffee in the morning, be able to spend a little more time with, and so on. But I do have job offers, so I'll have to see. We have to weigh them out, and I'll do the best for my future and my family's future. People have already said, 3 years from now, it's obviously too early. I can't answer that. I don't know where the future will bring me, but I'm not planning to leave. I hope to keep a watchful eye on my community and this council. I mean, that's the reason why I did what I did for 17 years, but I have to do what's best for me and my family at this point. So we'll, again, hoping to take some time off, relax, enjoy my backyard, and maybe get a little bit better at golf, which I've been attempting to do for 7 years. But there's offers out there, so I have to strongly consider what my next step is, but I hope to still be around.
Can you tell us what the offers are, or maybe what sector they fall under?
A little bit of organizational governance, I'll say, in a very, very high role outside of the community. A couple of financial, I won't say institutions, but opportunities out there. I got another one this morning by text, again in the financial realm. So there's definitely opportunity. I'm not going to disclose individually, but it's my business now, and I haven't said that in a long time either. But I hope to be around, and if not, my heart's still in Kahnawake.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that earlier, that for you, you've always been you. You know, it was never Grand Chief. But now that that title really is gone, how does it feel?
I don't think it's completely sunk in yet. Maybe when I hand in my keys, either this Friday, I'm on the payroll for 2 weeks. There's a 2-week transition period. I hope to speak with Joe. I've spoken to many of the new, actually the one new and the other returning council members yesterday. Spoken to a lot of staff, made the rounds yesterday. There's still some transition files and briefing notes that have to be done, so there is still some work to do. I guess maybe when I hand in my keys, that's the final day, the final say, but people have said it's going to take some time. You need to transition out. I mean, I've been at work in this job, in this building for 17 years. So it's going to be tough. Like I said, I don't think I fully realized it yet, but when the day comes, I'll deal with it.
Yeah. Besides handing in that key and the finality of it, what else are you sort of having, like, what'll be tough to let go of?
Well, not to be at work at 7:45 every day and leave whenever the job is done for the day. It's a routine, you know. Like I said, I hope to be off for the summer, and I have no shortage of things to do either around the house or at my mom's house or whatever. But that lack of routine, at some time I'm sure it'll hit. I took a walk this morning. I usually walk early in the morning. I went a little earlier this morning, and it's real quiet just to reflect. And like I said, it's going to be tough. I know it's been tough on staff since the announcement. It's definitely been tough on me. When it hits, who knows what I'll feel, but it's going to take time.
Out of curiosity, what got you into politics in the first place?
My mom and dad's home burnt to the ground in January of 1997, and I was working for the Bank of Montreal at the time. My wife called me from the arena, walking with her sister and the 2 young children, and I dropped the phone, jumped in my car, and beat her to my parents' house, even though she was at the arena and I was in Côte des Neiges. The amount of support, love, energy, resources that the community gave my parents drove me to say, maybe it's time to give back. And I spoke to former council members. I was coaching football for the Raiders in Chateauguay, having conversations over that summer and fall with people in the community, and they said, Mike, you have a background, you're an intelligent person. I think your mind and heart's in the right place, give it a shot. So I ran in '98, came in first overall, and never looked back.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's so long ago.
People have said, why didn't you campaign? Maybe you could have got in if you would have. In '98, I put an insert in the post office boxes of every community member the week before, so that Thursday or Friday before the election, I put 2 small advertisements in, at that point, the only newspaper in town, the Eastern Door, and I never advertised since then. I base it on track record experience, and if the community said, we're going in the wrong direction, vote me out. But I've been there since '98.
Yeah. Another question out of curiosity. Gus Skydeer got the highest amount of votes. Do you think she might have a future someday as a Grand Chief?
She'd have my vote. I support her, not only in language and culture, but she has capacity. She has passion, which I think is paramount in terms of doing this job. She has the community at heart. She took on the membership portfolio, which she took a lot of criticism for. Tough job. I think she's up to the challenge. It'd be a first in terms of a woman Grand Chief, but if anybody could do it, she'd have my vote depending on who's running against her.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Any last things you'd like to say?
Thank you to community. You've had my support, my back, and have given me the opportunity of a lifetime to lead this community for 11 years, be on council for 17. It's been an amazing experience. I've met so many people, have so many wonderful memories and friendships that I've developed. It's been an amazing ride, so Nyaongoa.
Okay. Thank you everyone for watching. This is Ganadigo One-on-One. I'm your host, Lauren Gardung-Hirdo-Gwismacumber. In studio with us today was the now former Grand Chief Michael Delisle. Nyaongoa. Onigiwahi.